Hi there, it's Dr. JOYLYN Sparkles and welcome to your Power Hour. This is your time to put what's on your mind, on my mind, and we'll put our heads and hearts together and come up with a way to go from stuck to happy as fuck in a short amount of time as possible. Welcome to today. We're going to try or do or play or practice with improv today because we're going to improv to improve it. I just got back from Boise the other day. I went for an improv workshop, and so it's fresh on my mind. And it's interesting because it's coming at, unbeknownst to me, but a very interesting, pivotal time where there's a whole lot in flux. There is a lot of invitation to let go and leave some old shit behind. And in that, witnessing some real clutching and wanting to hold it together. So this is the real talk, and I'm going to set the stage and give you a little story, and then we're going to work through this together. As far as I do believe that self-love, forgiveness, gratitude, all these things that are beneficial, happiness, joy, loving, like love especially, we have unclear ideas of what they really mean because of how we were brought up. Now, there are some of you in this group who probably think, no, I've got a good idea of what that is, or you just keep moving forward. And for those of you, thank you for being on this planet and holding some stability, and also please recognize how lucky you are to have had at least one parent who was stable and actually able to give you enough love enough times that even when they failed or fell through, you had a secure connection, and so that you know who you are and that you're valuable and worthy. And keep going with that, okay? There might be times and places and parts and pieces and maybe some other relationship dynamics that you struggle with, and I'm happy to be a resource for you. But you have a really gift to bring as far as being some stability for those of us who had a very dysfunctional childhood, where one parent or both parents were so absent emotionally, physically. And so in that upbringing, with that amount of chaos, with survival so early on being interpreted as making sure someone else is okay, to make sure you're okay, the sense of self doesn't develop properly. And in that, there's a lot of insecurity attached and associated with being at all, what your worth is, what it is that our function is. And so this is really a lot for those of us who had dysfunctional childhoods and are looking and seeing how other people are succeeding. We will look successful in a job. We will appear successful from the outside. We know how to hold things together enough and are actually often high achievers, especially in academia, but also in jobs that are defined. We perform really well. We know how to show up for other people. But inside, there is something missing of wondering who we are. There's this sense that we came to do something bigger or greater, but not knowing exactly what, and definitely not knowing how. And then we'll get messages reflected to us a lot. You're so hard on yourself. Just ease up, lighten up. But again, not knowing how. And then with the boundaries, learning pieces of boundaries and picking up a piece and being like, I just created a boundary, that's awesome. But then when we use that and only that one tool that we have, learn that we've started creating barriers and actually blocked people out, because that's actually the other thing we know how to do to keep ourselves safe, is to block people out and really tightly control our environment. And then still, though, wanting to be part of a whole and a collective and a community and a family and desperately needing love and connection because we're still human, but seeing that sometimes the things that we do actually push people away, but we don't actually know how to fix it. and how to love ourselves through it, because those words are so confusing. So let me tell you a little tale of a self-love specialist and life transformationist and happiness facilitator named Dr. JOYLYN Sparkles, okay? I've been doing this work for a long time, okay? I grew up in a chaotic household, and I talk so much about trauma. And just recently learning, like within the last year and a half, that a lot of what I actually experienced was trauma from between the age of 0 and 2 months. And so it wasn't a made-for-TV movie. It was actually my family pulling together and doing what they can, having 2 baby girls delivered at the same time. Mom goes back in the hospital for some postpartum complications. But for these 2 little infants that are really, really tiny, having that many caregivers and that much chaotic environment actually meant that some parts of the developing brain and persona and like worldview things are still a little bit disorganized. And when it happens that early, the tendency is to have a dissociative response and just be like, I'm not even here. It doesn't matter if I exist. I must not even be real. Something to that effect. I'm not very lovable. I'm not worthy. But definitely a way of kind of like, peace out. I'm just gonna get out of this body and sort of watch my environment and kind of keep an eye on my body, make sure I'm safe. Now, what this does is as you grow up, if it's not easy to correct because nobody knew that it happened. Everybody's looking around being like, look, they're alive, they're thriving, great, they're on the age, they're on the right, weight growth charts. Look at their grades are amazing, because here's what happens. When you dissociate, when you go into school and you've gone from chaos into a place where they say, here's the objective, here's how it's measured, here's what I want to see, you say, I know how to deliver that. And so you're an ace. And because you've learned how to dissociate, you can tune other people out. Because you just knew how to tune out other parts of uncomfortable reality because it was just too intense for this little nervous system that got overly sensitized. So you've got this interesting setup of a dissociative response, academia that actually provides structure, and then you often get the loving and the praise that you need from teachers and from following rules and being really good at that, to where you are often, and because actually there's an innate brilliance and God-given intelligence that we all have, but we express it in a way that is very, very rewarded, that we are then called gifted, and we excel at things and then get out into this more chaotic adult life where there aren't as many structures and rules, and it's a create your own adventure, and you're working with other people who have free will and start to learn that not everybody operates the way that your family of origin did, that a lot of your survival mechanisms and coping mechanisms are not working as well or at all anymore, and that other people who you knew growing up to be a shit show and couldn't keep their, always getting in trouble, detention, all that stuff, they're like doing great. Or at least they appear to be on Facebook. Okay, everybody's got a story, all right? So don't get too caught up in that. I'm wondering, like, where's mine? Like what the fuck? Like I'm just feeling empty inside. It's funny. I just watched a show from Rainn Wilson, who was, what is he on The Office? Is it Dwight? I can't remember. He's the office manager. And he's had all this success in his life, but he even says, I have a wife and a son I love. I've had this career success, but I just sort of don't feel super happy, so he's going to places trying to see where happiness is. Now, interesting about that, and there's a side note, he's looking for it outside, as if there's something outside. It's a place, it's a thing, and it's an inside job. Happiness is always an inside job. But what's happening for a lot of us is coming up against this and seeing there's this disconnect. How do we connect that then? Because it's been so long, meaning before the age of 2 months, maybe before birth, maybe not since our last time, maybe not for many lifetimes, like that I felt connected. How do I have this coherent sense of self so that I can move in the world and feel good and happy and valuable? And how do I do that and feel that and speak that and operate from that when all of my training prior basically told me the opposite, such that there was chaos. So there's real insecurity and you're not safe. There's this codependent enabling and enmeshment to where it's somebody else's emotions that actually always outrank yours, and yours, anytime they're in conflict with that person, have to be put down. And so I've just over and over and over created relationships based on that, okay? And wanting something else, but then really not knowing how to operate with anything else. So we've got that. Then in this a real overthinking, the brains, and we're intelligent and we've been prized for the intellect, and so then we just overthink, but our thoughts are not our friends. And so just in the last 2 days, recognizing I really fell into a really negative thought pattern again. And so some of you who have maybe been doing this work for a long time, and hey, I did this and it really works. I cut out gluten, it really works. I cut out dairy, it really works. I got on this exercise program, it really works. I started this mantra, it really works. I started this yoga practice, it really works. Feeling great, and everything's going. And then we're just like, I got this shit. And then all of a sudden it's like smack. Boom, smack, there you are flat on your ass or flat on your face, like face plant, like what the hell just happened, okay? Now, the good news is you are intelligent, so whatever it is, you probably have a good amount of awareness. You're going to figure it out quickly, and it's probably going to take more than once of picking yourself up out of it, but it's not going to take that many reps because you're intelligent, so you can associate things quickly, okay? Trust this. What happened for me was over this weekend, I'm hanging out with friends and I'm like, all right, I know I have way too many rules, so here's some that I'll keep, and then some of it I'm going to let go, and ended up eating for lack of planning, for wanting to connect with people, for working with the circumstance that I was in. I just had a fuck ton of gluten over the weekend, okay? And normally I don't have that much because I know that I have what I'm going to start calling trauma gut, which is just a lack of boundaries, okay? So I've got leaky gut to where when there's certain things that I eat, the proteins that are larger than they should be get in the bloodstream, and they can wreak havoc if they cross the blood-brain barrier, just create a lot of inflammation in the body, like just these things. Things that we know that commonly do this are gluten, dairy, for a lot of people, corn, way too much sugar can do that. Caffeine can end up doing that. It like overstimulates and has some inflammatory effects sometimes. But I ate too much gluten, and then I come back and I have gluten brain, which is almost like PMS brain, where if I should have been more aware, I use the word should, that I ate that much, and instead of thinking it's going to be fine, and not really believing it, but just like wishing it was so, the energy. There's a time where you can be like, I'm going to be fine. This is going to be fine. I got this shit. And you can really like close the door on some stuff with that powerful attitude. You really can. And then there's times where you're like, it's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. It's not going to bother me. I'm going to make it through this, the whole time knowing, oh, I hope it's okay. You're like, there's a difference in energy, okay? The confidence really matters. Well, I was in that latter party, and didn't work out that great, and I had gluten brain, which is very much like PMS brain, except for I know my cycle, and in PMS brain, I'm like, just don't believe anything you think right now. Anything that comes across like your reflection is the worst that you've ever seen, it's only going to last 2 days, okay? I've been with myself long enough. I finally got this. Now, it also happens with gluten, but it was slightly delayed, and so it happened yesterday, and so some of the other things that were working their way up to the surface, because I'm going to a workshop, I'm going next level, I'm trying to get to a higher level of performance, and when you do that, you're going to hit some barriers. You're going to see some old limitation stuff. So I saw some of that, and then you put gluten in there, so where it wasn't just seeing it, it was believing it. And oh yeah, I'm back there, and childhood's a big difference, and no, I can't receive this love, no, I can't have this because I'm not worthy, because my mom said I wasn't. And so it's just kind of like a mess. And then, okay, it doesn't end there, it gets better, and then it's like, okay, because I've got gluten brain, and I'm believing all these negative thoughts about myself, that then I go in, and I'm in relationship with somebody who also has their own stresses going, that while I'm going back into the throes of memory lane where I used to live with my ex-husband, and although it's happy and seeing friends and playing volleyball and having some great life experiences, that there's this sort of undertone of discomfort. And then I'm working on this workshop and trying to go next level and seeing how some of the things he's saying, I'm like, I just don't believe you because my childhood said that wasn't true. And I'm struggling with releasing some of these childhood beliefs about myself. And then he lost his phone in the woods, so he didn't have a phone, so our communication was not super available to where I can't tap into somebody who's normally very available to reality check and be like, that's not how it is at all. So I'm making a lot of associations that are way inaccurate, okay? And then I come home and I've got a lot of feelings about this, and I try to do my best to tamp it down, and then I am a fast learner. What I learned from my last relationship, just don't be unhappy like at all. Like everything's fine, and just if you're unhappy, I don't want to be around you. So just keep saying that everything's fine even when it's not, okay? The opposite of vulnerability, okay? Hello, I live this fucking work, and I'm watching myself do all the wrong things, okay? So that when I'm actually talking to him, I start seeing we're having a circular argument. We argue for almost 2 hours at 2 different times during the day, and neither one of us can figure out what it is we're actually fighting for, except that we don't want to be wrong, and we have a good point. And then I see me do that thing that I know we've all done of like, once this gets resolved, it was actually this. Once this gets resolved, it's actually this. And if you've ever watched It's a Power Hour from a long time ago, the story changes, it's bullshit. You can look at this in politics too, because as soon as we figure something out, oh, it's really this, oh, it's really this. When really, okay, that's actually a commitment to separation and miscommunication. And then when you dig in and really dig your heels in and there's a point you have to make, that's actually something that you need. So mine was, I don't feel like I'm being listened to. I'm not being listened to. You're not listening. And if you just understand that I actually need to shut the fuck up and listen to myself. What is it? Because I think I actually did get things from the workshop. I was having some breakthroughs, but I wasn't allowing myself to actually have them for whatever reason, partly because of gluten brain. Another thing was my body with my disjointed thoughts that I now know is a symptom and not truth. I actually I can't pretend that that's not actually still at play in my life. As much as I wish I could write it out, it's not available at this point. It may be at some point, but there are still some other things that I have to work through. So, what we're getting from this, what I'm getting from this, is one of 2 things. And here's where I do want to improv a little bit, but it's hard to do over the internet. When I'm talking about gluten brain, and this is going to resonate for a lot of you, so hear me out. It's going to be something dietary, a job, a relationship, or a place that you live that you're going to try to eliminate from your life to make things better. And sometimes it's because at some point you did that and you did get some relief. But all of those things are exterior, circumstantial, and so they're not the cause. It's going to be something that's inside that's creating reactivity. And now when there's anything that's diseased, detrimental, disorganized, there's going to be a 2-part thing. It's going to be eliminating the toxicity. A lot of times when you just remove the obstacle to cure, the cure and resolution presents itself. There's also the other thing of obstacle to cure can also be sometimes correcting an imbalance. But we spend most of our time there trying to fix a problem instead of looking at how can I actually help things go right? Because if you look at, like, the iceberg, the tip of the iceberg that we see is that here's how to correct. What is so much more foundational, fundamental is how do you help things go right? And focusing on that. And it's like there was this, I can't remember if it was a TED Talk or something, but somebody, they put like, there was a bunch of like sand in a jar. And it's like, this is the crap that we put in it. And what do we try to do? We try to extract the sand and try to get every grain out. Well, what she did was just pour a shit ton of water, and you could see it start to become clear and wash out some of the filtrates to where it actually started to look more like water than just mud. So it wasn't sand or dirt, whatever. Okay, you're getting my picture, my visual here. The more good stuff you put in, it dilutes the bad. Then if you're also removing the bad, so you're not continually adding it in, wow, it's going to feel so much better, so much faster, okay? So that when you're in this shit pit, first thing you do, stop thinking. Stop believing everything that you're thinking. But hey, the brain can't stop braining, so what do you do then? Start adding good stuff in. Don't start looking at how to fix it, because that's going to continue to focus on the bad. Just start looking at what good can I get into this system right now, okay? So, with that, there was a game that is in improv, and so much of improv is actually teaching you how to get out of your head and into your body, because this magical meat suit has the brilliance for you. What's going on upstairs and the connections you make are generally for someone else. That's the culmination and accumulation that we put together with language that then we can package and deliver to help someone else. But what we need is to stay present and embodied, to learn how to stay incorporated instead of dissociate, and stay present when we want to flee. And improv helps you do that, because there's actually nobody who actually is just born great at improv that I know of. Everybody comes in a little bit scared, not innately knowing how to stay in their creativity and make up weird shit on the fly. And then when we start, almost all of us are talking heads, and we'll have a character, but we'll just stand there and maybe just have a funny voice, but it pretty much stays just like this. And it's not until you get better and better that you start actually embodying, using space work, making things up, using your hands, giving people visuals, showing instead of just telling. It comes with a lot of practice, but that's how you actually get good at it, is just practicing. And so there's a lot of games that are just made to get you out of your head. One's called 5 Things. And whether or not you can hear me, you can see that I'm clapping the whole time. Clapping the entire time, because what this does, and here's something, I'll give this to you too, it keeps you active so that your brain cannot continually only solely focus on the thought. It's actually it's here too, so it's actually got to put both of them together, and you actually start trusting that your body, that your brilliance is going to come through. Another thing too, here's a side note, men and women who are talking trauma, and if you have a dissociative person and somebody who is associative, so somebody who wants to flee and somebody who wants to go at it, get something physical going on so that you can both stay present. Toss a ball to each other, a soft one, so that no violence can ensue. Be clapping. If you have a partner, doing patty cake while you're talking, because this actually keeps you from getting too overwhelmed and flooded with sensation and emotion. Okay, so this can actually help. And the game is simple. It's called 5 Things. It's just 5 things. And it can be about whatever. So when you're playing improv, it can really be about anything at all. Now what happens is generally we can easily come up with 2, but then the next 3 are not as easy. So you have to challenge yourself to come up and accept whatever it is that comes out. You don't have to use it, you just have to accept it, and it's great, okay? And a lot of times the most off-the-wall stuff is the funniest stuff anyway, okay? And then every once in a while you'll get something that's totally off the wall, you didn't even think about it, but it's either a gift to somebody else or a gift to yourself of, hey, I can actually fucking use that, okay? So, and then we're going to do it twice, because what came up in this improv was, at first, this is what we were to do, is to have an area where we weren't strong in and 5 ways that it could improve, or improvement would be good, to kind of get over the hump. But I actually also ran a second one and said, hey, tell me how you're already good at this. Because most of us have a story that we suck at it. It's going to be hard. It's going to be hard forever. Why bother? Nothing I do matters. Like, a lot of these really rehearsed, they were issued, like they're issues, they were issued, not consciously by any means, but things that we picked up, like these broken, inaccurate, and actually now outdated ideas about how we function that are keeping us functioning at way lower than we could, okay? So let's think of 5 things, all right? So here's where we're doing an improv self-love experiment, because JOYLYN's having a tough day. I just cried a bunch this morning and last night because I didn't like how I showed up. I didn't show up as me, as the best me, not even a good version of myself. And I went into some really old habit patterns, and I'm struggling to forgive myself. So now we're going to think of together five ways to forgive yourself. All right? And JOYLYN's going to go, and then what happens is you go, when I say one thing, you go one thing, you know, because you're clapping with me, right? Okay? So, JOYLYN, what are 5 ways that you can forgive yourself? And I'll think about it, and I'll say, 5 ways I can forgive myself is to actually write a letter. That's one thing. I can forgive myself by saying, I'm sorry out loud to myself in the mirror. 2 things. I can actually forgive myself when I ask for forgiveness from somebody else and say, I'm sorry. So that's 3 things. I can actually forgive myself by walking out a door and visually showing myself I'm leaving something behind. That's 4 things. I can forgive myself by making myself a peanut butter and jelly sandwich because I'm still worthy of love, even though I did something I didn't like. Okay, 5 things. That's 5 things, okay? That was, I'm going to say, a little bit lame, all right? So we're going to do it again. I'm going to come up with some really crazy shit that doesn't make any sense just for entertainment purposes, okay? So here's 5 things. So I can, you know, do all the things I said before, and they're awesome, but I can tie my shoes with my opposite hand leading for no reason at all. I can forgive myself by making a funny face in the mirror and making myself laugh and knowing I'm worthy of laughter. I can forgive myself by, see, now we're getting into this. I don't know. I can forgive myself by saying, I'm the greatest human being that ever lived. I might not totally believe it right now, but I'm going to say it. I'm the best human that ever lived, okay? I'm the best version of me, okay? I can forgive myself by clapping with my opposite hand, just because so I can do something different, okay? I can show myself that I can do something different right now. I can forgive myself by giving myself a 4. I don't even know what that means. I'm giving myself 4 things. That's how I forgive myself. I'm going to give myself a 4. I don't even know what that means, but I'm going to make it up. You can give yourself a 4, okay? That's how you forgive yourself. And we'll say that's 4 things. 4 things, so let's get one more. And I can forgive myself by rubbing my belly and patting my head, and that's how I know I've been forgiven, okay? I don't know, that's 5 things, all right? 5 things. It's that simple. Have a friend do it with you. Are you going to feel silly? Absolutely. Is your friend going to be silly? Probably, because they've never played. Are you going to wonder if you're doing it the right way? Most likely, because you've only maybe just been introduced to this via Power Hour, where I only okay-ish explained it for you, okay? But I demonstrated it. It's really just to get out of your head, and you can do EFT, you can do marching, you can do, it's just another tool to use to actually challenge you to say, hey, something else is possible. And the more you practice these things of setting down the bad, just stop adding the bad to the situation, and start adding more good things, not attempts to fix it, but actual good things. Hugs, loves, look at yourself in the mirror and smile. Go for a walk outside. Look at the sunshine. Look at your food and smile. Say thank you. Give a compliment to yourself, to other people. Pet an animal. Smell a flower. Like, do the things, like write in your journal, color in a coloring book. Create an art piece, sing a song, dance. Do something that actually feels good, and do it long enough to actually let your body start to calibrate with feeling good. It may not be an instantaneous switch, okay? But this is how you improv it to improve it, is wherever you are, whatever is on your plate at this moment is a gift if you let it be. You are now an artist. You are an improvisational comedian. How are you going to flip this to where it actually can be something to laugh at or play with? And what we're learning here is there's nothing that's not available for that. If it is, you've gotten too serious, and I have to rewatch it this afternoon as well, but bring your sexy back. I think I did that back in March. When you get serious, you get unsexy, so it's time to bring the playfulness back. Bring your sexy back. You can do it with 5 things. Go just Google improv games. Go to an improv workshop. I'm going to be starting here soon in my area. The Self-Love Experiment live events where we're doing some of these things to really start to get in and using our magical meat suit to be present, to start practicing release, leaving things behind that aren't working anymore, to start challenging for new ideas because, and a lot of them aren't going to make sense, but then to just laugh at them and continue to move on. Because what I'm also got from the last 2 days, that's, again, a reiteration of something I got that I probably did a power hour on and was like, fucking got that shit. And now the universe is like, again, please. And the universe being me, show me again, JOYLYN. I just want to make sure you got this. The information you need often is going to become available once you make a move forward. You're not going to be able to sit in the shit and figure it out. As much as I want to meditate, and I do love it, and there's space for that, but it's actually making your next move is when the information and the aha is going to come and the things are going to connect. It's not going to be from standing still and refusing to move and resisting what is. You have to keep going. And why? Yeah, you don't have to. You don't have to. As soon as I say have to, you don't want to, and I get that. But why would you want to? Because that's what love would do. Love has never ever once said, yeah, why bother? It's too hard. But it always says, wherever you are, we can start from here and we can do this together. And who's the we? Me, myself, and I. Me and my partner. Me and the universe. Me and the sunshine. Me and the earth. Me and my old stories, and the new author who's coming up and the editor who's like, oh, hey, this is great material to start with. Now let's change the ending to where they win. They being me, okay? It's all just choices, and we've made some habitual choices that make these feel a little bit uneasy, but they are totally doable. You just actually get into your body and get silly, and it's going to actually start to come easier, okay? I hope that resonated with you and made some sense, and if nothing else, you enjoyed my game of 5 things, which actually was a mild, diluted, lame version. I can do much better than that, so I challenge you to send me a comment, a video, and anything that you did it, and let me know how that goes for you. Until then, I will see you next Wednesday for Power Hour again. Know that you are loved. The brilliance is in you. You were born with it. It's innate. The issues were issued. They're probably not yours. That's why you're having trouble changing them. So improv it to improve it. Start where you are and just make a move. And if you can make yourself laugh while you're making that move, all the better. Okay? Good luck to you. I love you, and I'll talk to you next week. Mwah.